Okay, this is my setup on location setup with my palette and my easel, and this is the view that I have of the tree line that I'm going to be painting today in my demonstration. Now, the first part of this will be a video taped portion of the demonstration of my on-site location, and then I'll come back to the studio and do a demonstration of the Hake brush. Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. Now, today I'm broadcasting from Chesapeake, Virginia to all around the United States and around the world. Welcome aboard. Hope all you viewers that are signing in and give me a thumbs up and give me some likes and make some comments if you have any, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Subscribe to my YouTube channel also. That's another one. All these things help with my rating on YouTube and LinkedIn and on Facebook. So I appreciate all your help and all your support. I'm in my studio today with my wife, Gloria.
Welcome, everyone.
And she'll be monitoring the broadcast and also the chat room. The chat room's live, so I see Fernando here. Welcome aboard. Okay, today I'm going to do a couple things. I did a plein air last weekend, and I videotaped it. And as usual, on any kind of painting exercise, whether in the studio or in plein air, things can happen. And you'll see something there. I made some changes in the middle of my program outdoors. And we'll talk about that after I get back from the video. But this plein air was very important to me. It's an area location that I go to a lot on my daily weekly runs. And I was expecting something special. So when we get back to the studio, we'll talk about it, and also I'll go over some details about how I got there. So let me go ahead. I'm going to start the demo, and I'll come back and talk to you when it is over. Well, this is a location where I was past weekend. And this shows my basic setup. I had planned on a bright sunrise, but the weather wasn't as good today. But I wasn't going to give up. I want to go ahead and do this particular scene that I planned ahead. So there's my setup. And I'm going to show you an example here of using with the Hake brush. I wanted to get started on putting in the sky with the ultramarine blue. So the big Hake brush will cover that area pretty quickly. Using broad horizontal strokes, and wet the brush with water and then into the ultramarine blue to get started. And I had planned on a sunrise sky, so I'm going to go ahead and paint it anyway. This is my plan. I'm going to go ahead and put that sky color in, starting with the ultramarine blue. Then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow lemon. You want to add in the sunrise color, which is what I was hoping we would see today. But I'm going to use my artistic license here and go ahead and just stick it in. Next is a little bit of pyro red. So I've got the three basic colors, red, yellow, and blue, and to give me the sunrise color. So I'm really just kind of anticipating here sunlight coming through. It looks like an overclouded day, but I'm going to go ahead and paint this painting as though the sun was shining out, coming through those trees. That's what I had envisioned in my preparation planning. And put a little more sunrise in there, a little more yellow. On the sky, I was going to have a sunny day with sunlight coming through the trees, and that's what I had planned. on this particular scene. But as we all know, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. We can go ahead as an artist, go ahead and plan and put in something that's not there, just as a practice. So this is a practice painting, putting the colors down on this quarter sheet of paper. I have a Gemini paper. Here's another view on the other side of my easel, and here I'm going to start putting in some of the background trees. I'm starting out with green number 1, and the background trees are very light because that just shows they're in the distance, a light value. So just light green. And I'm noticing already that the paper is still wet. But we're going to go ahead and keep trying. We're going to keep moving ahead here. If the sun was out, it would be drying the paper off a lot easier, a lot faster. And I don't have a blow dryer out here with me on plein air. So I'm going to just try it with this wet paper. This is just a test. This is really just a practice session. And I'm trying to see how number one, I'm working with the Hake brush. And I'm also working with the color combination and also with a very, very wet paper. Usually at this time with the sun out, the paper would be drying. Now it's decision time. I need to find out if I'm going to continue on any further. So I'm going to try a few more brush strokes on that wet paper. And just to see if it's going to be enough to do what I want to do. And I've decided, no, the paper's too wet. It just won't go any further. So I'm going to start with a new beginning. So I got a backup sheet of paper all fixed up here, and I don't have any drawing on this one. I'm going to go right ahead and just use the burnt sienna with a flat brush. I'm looking at the scenery, and I'm painting what I see right from scratch. So here I'm using a flat brush to get me to put down the initial strokes here on this particular beginning tree here. This is the main tree here of the composition that I see. So this main tree is going to get a lot of attention. And I'm using the burnt sienna with the flat brush to get that tree identified. And I'm going to, as I look at the tree and look at the information I'm looking at here, I'm going to make this my focal point. So I'm going to spend a little more time on this and put a lot more detail on this particular area right here after I finish with the flat brush here to get the trunk established. So that's a good start and on dry paper this works very well with a flat brush. Now I've got the rigger, I'm going to start adding in the branches. And here I'm going to sit back. I got a little music in the background. Just listen to music and just watch the rigger brush move. I hope you like the background music to give me a little subtle feeling about the rigger brush. Now I'm going to add in some fence posts with the flat brush. There are some added features here on this landscape, and so a couple of fence posts next to the trees. It gives me a nice little feeling here. This country road here behind the trees. There's a highway just on the other side of the trees, but right here is a nice little quiet little back road that I use quite a bit. This is where I usually run my running route. Goes along this road here sometimes. So this place is very special to me, and I picked this location because of the scenery. Now I'm going to add in the grass with the flat brush with some green #1 paint. Adding in almost just about the horizon line from where I'm looking. It's really the ground plane. The horizon line is a little bit higher up on the paper. But I'm putting in the green #1, just using a flat stroke here with the flat brush, and putting in the green #1 as the grass there at the bottom of the trees. So that gets me started on the landscape. And now I'm going to start putting in the trees and more background music. And this is the view I had as I was looking at that painting, part of the painting here I'm working on. And there's my current situation. I'm moving the camera on. Again, I'm trying to make changes here. I'm trying some new things here as I'm planning on adding the branches now with that rigger brush on that tree off to the left, which is a secondary tree, but it keeps the eye from blocking out on the left side. But I'm trying different things here. I'm trying to add a little bit of music here to the video instead of me talking the whole time and just to watch me paint. And I'm also trying different angles of the camera, give a different view, a different look at where I am. You'll see other views here. I'm adding the grass now with a Hake brush. The Hake brush is also very good for putting in texture. And here I'm using adding green #1 again. To the landscape here below the base of the trees, and adding in that texture of that green grass there at the bottom of the trees. So the Hake brush really does a good job here. This is what I want to do today. I want to get a workout with the Hake brush, and I'll demonstrate that after the video to become more familiar with the capabilities and the usage of the Hake brush. So that texture looks real good. It looks just like grass down there with that the green color and the strokes from the fiber on the Hake brush. Now I'm mixing up a little darker green now, adding a little bit of blue in with that green number 1. And now I'm going to start adding the foliage and more music. Now I'm packing in the background. I'm adding a lighter mix now of the colors, lighter, a little bit of blue mixed in with that green number 1, but it's a light value because this light value is in the background, so it's going to be further away and be less defined. So that's where the light value is going to be behind this row of trees. So I'm painting the background trees, making a nice light value, and give it a little bit of texture with the Hake brush. Again, that Hake brush is getting a good workout today, painting all these middle ground trees and also the background trees. And with a light touch and very little paint on the brush, it's almost a dry brush. I'm just getting just enough paint there to make it show up as a background behind those row of trees. And I'm not worried about hitting all the colors. I can leave a little white space around. That's okay. I like to leave a little bit of white space in my paintings. It gives a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of interest in the composition. Lets the eye a little area to move around the painting with the white paper showing. So the Hake is busily putting away that background trees and giving them a nice little texture and a light value behind that darker row of trees. You can see I'm using like a stippling technique just to give it the texture and to give it the coverage of that light color. Just also filling in a lot of the white areas. Yeah, I'm mixing up a little darker value now. Put a little blue in with that mixture in the background. I want to add the blue color to make that background trees recede. When you put blue in the background, blue is a cooler color, and it makes that area recede even further back. So by adding just a little more blue in there into the texture, a little more color of blue behind these middle ground trees, it gives it the feeling that it's behind and it's in the background, way behind. It's still a light value, but it has a little more blue color to it to give it a distancing background value and color. And the Hake brush is doing another great job with the background. Now I'm going to mix up a little bit of foreground color, and I'm using the Hake brush here with a little bit of Payne's gray mixed in with that blue, and that gives me a dark color, a darker color. And the texture of the brush, using the Hake brush and using a scrubbing motion, a dry brush motion will give me the texture look of the foreground roadway. And that's exactly what I wanted. And just, again, it's just a practice to get the colors down, and also using the Hake brush for a specific area. And again, it does a great job for that. There's another view of my location. I'm putting on some of the final touches now, which will be the smaller branches and twigs on the trees, and also add a little more color to the trees. Just a little more touch to the trunks, and a little more touching to the twigs, and adding more branches. And here you can see I'll give another view of this. I've got the rigger brush. It's adding the final little twigs and little limbs on the branches here to give it the final look. And this adds more realism and more believability of these branches, because this is still a springtime tree, and so the branches are going to be plain. Now I'm adding a little bit of texture here to that fence line. I'm adding, with the rigger brush, I'm adding a wire across there, which does a really good job. That rigger is fantastic. I have more fun and more enjoyment using the rigger brush. You can see the nice fine line. Gives me the look of that wire running across that fence line. Now I'm adding in, with a round brush, I'm adding in the added leaves. So this is using light green and yellow mixed together for that spring green look. I'm adding the spring green leaves to that tree. So these are the final touches I'm putting on this particular painting here on Plein Air. And I'm going to give you a close-up here view of the tree and those leaves I just added. There is a spring tree. There's a spring tree. Those are spring leaves I just added. So this was a good outing here with the Plein Air, and a good outing for the Hake brush, which I really enjoyed doing. So I'm going to take you back to the studio, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this texture. Hey, we're back. That was my Plein Air session there, out there outdoors on my part of my running trail. Yes, I run 3 times a week, and that's one section that I run just about every time I go out. Lots of trees along there, beautiful. It's quiet along that way, and I was hoping a little bit more sunshine there. I was looking for a little more dramatic lighting as far as shadows and so forth. But you know, when you go out and paint outside, you get what you get, and to try to make out of it. I think I'm going to go to my painting table, and we're going to get started on something else here. I'm going to say hi to Maureen. Welcome aboard. I'm going to go to my painting table, and we're going to go over some details on using that Hake brush. So let's go to my painting table. Okay, there's a picture. That's the finished painting I did on location right there. That's what it looked like, and I think it turned out real well. I didn't plan it this way. This was actually real on live composition from what I saw, and it wasn't pre-planned. I didn't pre-draw anything. I had no photographs to go by. Just painting what I saw in front of me. So that's a real good example of what Plein Air is all about. The original one I started. They got too much water on the paper, and that can happen when you're painting. Get too much water on the paper. I didn't have a blow dryer with me, and the sun wasn't out. I couldn't dry the paper well enough. So I took my second choice and started over again. So this is what I finished up with out there on Plein Air. I'm very proud of that, and I hope you enjoy it. There's a picture of the actual scene. That's a picture of the actual scene that I was looking at, and I did a drawing. I did a design drawing when I went out there. This is what I was going to do, or a portion of this I was going to do on the original my original plan. Both of these now are in my Fun with Watercolor page, and also on Facebook. You can download your painting from this session and post it on Facebook. And the links for the Fun with Watercolor page to get a copy of the picture and a copy of the drawing is on the links on this video after the broadcast, and also a photograph of the drawing I have here to start for design.
And that's on the website.
And I also have it on the website. I'm going to go over my links at the end here when I finish this presentation here. Okay, I've got a piece of quarter sheet of watercolor paper here. I didn't check my focus out. We'll make sure it's okay. All right, it's clear. All right. I got a quarter sheet of 140-pound Gemini watercolor paper. And I've got two Hake brushes here. I've got a large Hake and a small Hake. And these are on my website. These are on my supply page. And I've got my regular palette over here laid out. And we'll go over the colors as I use them. But I'm going to just demonstrate a few things that I like about the Hake brush. You saw me use it on the demonstration. First of all, when I start out with, I have a bucket here of plain water, and I have a bucket also, a rinse bucket. And I also have a towel, a terry cloth towel here. And that's what controls the water in the brush. And, you know, that's one thing I thought about after the painting, that I should have had my towel out, and this is what it controlled some of the water in the brush, even plein air. So I'm going to wet the brush, and then go in here, I'm going to wet the paper. So this first portion here, the first top of this, I'm going to do a wet on wet technique. So wet the paper. I'm going to go down about halfway, a little over halfway. So by wetting the paper, I'm going to get this thing started pretty well. So usually when I use the Hake brush on a larger painting, I'll pre-wet the paper. Okay, that's pre-wet. And then I'm going to switch brushes here. I'm going to use the small Hake. And I'm going to, I got a little bit of yellow ochre down here at the bottom, just a little bit of yellow ochre. And when I do a sky, you just put color on the paper. It's not important where it goes. I just kind of get some color on the paper. And then I'm going to pick up some ultramarine blue here at the top, a little darker mix. And it's still wet on wet. I got to remember, it's still wet on wet. So I'll load the brush, and I can take out some of the extra water here on the towel, because I want to go across here at the top. And I'm going to leave some spaces here. At least space here for a possible cloud shape. So for making skies, making clouds, the Hake brush is a very, very useful tool for wet on wet type techniques. And then I'm going to come down here and leave a few smaller clouds here toward the horizon line. Okay, now normally I would leave this dry like this, but I'm going to go ahead and let me put a little more color on here. I got a little bit of Lythrin crimson, a little bit of Payne's gray here, and take out the water out of the brush. And I'm going to put another little shadows up here in the sky, a little more cloud shadows. That was a mixture of Lythrin crimson and Payne's gray. Alizarin crimson, which is a red, a nice beautiful red, and then Payne's gray. Okay, the thing about wet on wet, you don't want to fuss around too much. Just get in and get out as fast as possible. Okay, now I'm gonna blow dry this. I'm going to at least do the bottom portion here. So what I did is I put a light mixture here of yellow ochre to kind of warm up the sky just a little bit, and then I add a little bit of ultramarine blue to get the sky color. Yep. And left some white space for a possible cloud shape. And every time you do this, it's going to be different. For this first part, I did wet on wet. The paper was wet before I started, and then I added wet paint on top of the wet paper. So I'm going to test that. That's still a little bit damp. If it feels cool, you test with the back of your hand. If it feels cool, it's still damp. So the paper is still damp from that first layer of water I put down. And you'll also notice here that as the paint dries, it also dries a lot lighter than what you think. So you want to add a little more pigment to your mix than you think you need. Let's test that again. That's pretty dry. Okay. So the application of wet on wet is okay. It gives you soft edges for clouds and so forth in the sky, but also to remember that it's going to dry lighter because watercolor dries about 40% lighter when it dries. So you have to compensate for that. And so on this technique here, I want to get in and get out. I don't want to spend too much time worrying about where things are. So this first thing I want to do, I'm going to paint a little now. The next thing I'm going to do on the landscape side, I got the sky. The skyscapes are pretty easy with a Hake, pretty broad. But now I want to go ahead and I'll put a mountain back here. So I'm going to put the background mountain. That's pretty easy to do. Okay, and we'll let that dry. In the meantime, I'll mix up some more paint. I'm going to use I'm going to put a couple more mountains out here. Going to use a bit of yellow ochre. I'm using it right from the palette, using the brush right from the palette, yellow ochre, and I'm going to mix a little bit of Payne's gray in with that, and maybe a little bit of burnt sienna. Because as I come forward now, that's a background mountain. As I come forward, I'm going to get a little bit warmer. And Payne's gray mixed in with a little bit of yellow lemon also gives me a green mixture. So I can get a green mixture also. So, okay, that's going to be lighter. A little more Payne's gray in there. So I'm mixing up a little value here that's a little bit different. Okay, I'm going to dry this also. I don't want that to mix with this. So I'm going to dry this mountain. So when you're when we're working on either plein air or you're working here in the studio, and you got time, you take your time and walk away and let it dry. But for the sake of a demonstration here, I'm going to use a hair dryer. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and paint in another mountain over here. And this will be a little bit, it's got warmer color. It's got brown in it and a little bit of green mixed in. So it's going to be a little warmer mountain coming forward. And come on down. So the Hake is a great tool for putting in large landscape sections like mountains. We've done the sky and a mountain. So it covers the area very quickly, and can give you lots of texture. Okay, now we're going to work on another part of a mountain over here. So we're going to change the color slightly. Going to get a little bit darker now. Going to use a little more blue over here, mixed in with a burnt sienna, and that yellow ochre. And maybe I'll put a little more Payne's gray and a little bit of yellow, lemon. So it's going to be a little bit darker color. It's still going to be warmer than that one out there in the background. So I'm going to go out here with this one. Now remember, this looks dark here, but as I mentioned earlier, it's going to dry lighter. Going to dry lighter as the watercolor dries out. So you always have to remember that when you're in your mixes, that it's going to dry. Think about what color you're putting down and what its value is, because it's going to change. It's going to get lighter. We'll bring this on down here. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to dry this out too. I want to keep the paint dry, because as I go from layer to layer, the paint will mix with that. Also, as we get a little bit closer to the, we're in the middle ground now with these middle ground mountains. And before I get there, I'm gonna mix up a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue. Now use the edge of the brush now. I'll make sure all the water's out. Almost a dry brush. And I'm gonna go in now and put some just some low-lying trees along the bottom of this first mountain here. So just by tapping the paper with the wet brush, and now I'm using the edge of the brush, and I'm making little trees along here, little tree shapes just by touching the paper. I'm not using much pressure at all. So just by using the edge of the brush, the very corner of the brush, make it look like there's it's creating texture, but it's creating a little line of trees here in the middle ground, the base of this first mountain here. Okay, now I'll mix up another darker mix with a little more green in this one. So I'll mix in the yellow mixed in with I mixed yellow lemon with the Payne's Gray to give me a dark green. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and put in another little tree line along here on this mountain. Same technique. I'm using the edge of the brush loaded with paint, and I'm using the corner of the brush to give me a little texture. Looks like trees. As I go further back, they get smaller and smaller. That'll give me the indication of depth in the painting. And these two mountains here overlap each other, so we're going to show here a little bit of separation there by putting the trees in that section here. Okay, this is a demonstration of using the Hake brush and using all big brush strokes. Now, let me clean out my palette. I'm going to change the color slightly here, so I'm going to make a section here in my palette here. And this is also a demonstration of doing a loose painting, loose brush strokes. And this Hake brush does that very nicely. You cover a lot of ground and cover a large area. Now I'm going to take a little bit of yellow ochre here now. Now I'm coming forward, so I'm going to get lighter and warmer as I come forward. So I'm going to put a little patch here of some grass, some prairie grass. Up here to the edge here, a little prairie grass coming down in front of this mountain on the left over here, little hill mass. So that's some light brown prairie grass. And I'm going to put some over here on this side. And I'm going to build a little riverbank over here. So I plan on making a little bit of water here. Yeah, all kinds of demonstrations going on here. So this is going to come out, and I'm going to come around, and I'm going to put a little bend here. I'm going to put a little bend here in the river. So that's one of my favorite strokes here is to do as you come around, and then using the Hake brush with a loose stroke. It gives you rough, undefined edges, and that's what's nice about using something like this. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's now. So we made the edge of the riverbank, and I'm gonna darken up a little bit. So I'm gonna take some, build now. I always gotta watch the color in the brush. Excuse me. Watch the water in the brush. So by using it on a towel, I'm blotting it out. Then I go ahead and make a mixture. I'm going to make burnt sienna, a little bit of ultramarine. So make this a lighter, that dark brown up against the mountain. But I'm going to make this I'm going to make this a brown, but not as just a touch of blue. Okay, now I'm going to put a little edge on this riverbank over here. So the riverbank now has a little edge. The edge of the riverbank here. Put some tall grass and wet grass here, or mud, along the edge of the riverbank. Put that over here. Then I'm going to put up a little bit of, here's some taller grass here is darker. I'll break this section up over here a little bit. Okay. Okay. Then down here on the bottom corner. Now here's where you can become a little bit creative. I'm using the top of the brush, the corner of the brush. I'm going to put a little bush line down here. So by using the Hake brush edges, the sides, the corners, and so forth, I can build a little rough texture here. And as you can see here, as I'm going along, I'm putting a warm color in the foreground and the cool colors in the background. That gives me depth in the painting. But just showing techniques here is what I'm trying to get across today. Just showing techniques also. And I'm doing everything here with the so far with the rigger brush. Okay. Excuse me, with the Hake. Okay. So I got to darken that corner there. We'll make a little bushes over here. And let's see. I'm also gonna darken this area over here. I'm gonna get a little darker blue, a little darker brown. Again, I look at my palette and it's too watery. You got too much water in the palette. So I'm gonna take the water out of the brush, pick up a little more paint, a little more pigment. It'll be a little dark brown. I got the ultramarine mixed in with the burnt sienna. And I'm gonna come across here, a little too black. I'm gonna come across here with a little stroke here on the edge of this side of the edge of just to make it a little darker here. Kind of define the riverbank there a little bit. It's got a little mud flat maybe where the water comes up and gets the sand wet there. Okay, now I'm going to do one stroke here with the I used ultramarine blue. I'm gonna load the brush. I'm gonna make sure it's dry. I don't want a wet brush. I want a sort of a dry brush. So I'm gonna make sure take a lot of water out of it. So I'm using the towel, and I pat the towel, load the brush with paint. I pat the towel, get that. Now I'm gonna go up here. Now I'm gonna take. I'm gonna turn the corner of the brush as I come down. I'm gonna turn the brush. I'm gonna turn the brush. Give me an angle, and that will give me rough. See the rough texture there, which simulates the glistening on the water. A little bit now, very lightly, just a light touch of the brush here. So I'm very little pressure. Very little pressure there. That gives the effect of possibly the glistening and shining on the water. Okay. And now I want to get one last thing I want to do here. I want to get a little reflection here from this mountain here into the water. So I'll take a little bit of that color I had, which was a light brown. And see, my palette's getting very wet, so I got too much water in here. So I'm going to pick up some of the water. In any kind of watercolor painting, that's going to be one of the biggest challenges, is to get the correct amount of water in the brush, because what will happen is it'll flow on you, okay, and give you soft edges and things like that. So I'm mixing up that light brown. It's a light gray, that's what it is. It's a gray that's up here. So I'm going to come down here now from this riverbank over here, and I'm putting in that shadow of the mountain. Okay. All right. And let's see, one other thing I wanted to show, just as a little, it's not a trick or anything else, but this brush is very versatile. I'm going to mix up a dark value here of burnt sienna and ultramarine. I'm going to make sure the brush is nice and dry, patting it on the towel. Now what I'm going to do now is make the brush flat by laying it flat on the palette. Get a nice sharp edge. Take out all the water in the center by patting on the towel. Now I'm going to go in now and I'm going to put in some fence posts. So I'm going to put one in right here. I'm just use the corner of the brush. And then I'm going to come forward. And I'll get one more out here. Just using the corner of the brush. And then I can put a little, I'll make this a little bit longer. And then the brush is still loaded, so what I can do now is just put a little, maybe a trace of a rail. I'm just using the very corner of the brush, just barely touching the paper. And run that back into this bush line somewhere, okay? Just to show you that you can do some detail with the corner of the brush and so forth. Okay, let me take the clips off of here. Instead of using tape, I used the clips to hold the paper down. And what I wanted to do was take my same piece of mat board here and put that over top of this, and bring it out to the side so you can see what's going on. So that's a quick demonstration of using the Hake brush for the sky, wet on wet, and then down here wet on dry, where you put in the mountains and so forth, using different colors, going from blue, which recedes, and then coming forward with a warmer color, and then getting darker and a little more detail as I come forward in the painting. Okay. I don't like that mountain right in the middle, but you know, hey, this was just a practice. It was just a demonstration to show you what the Hake brush can do, and very versatile. So let me take you over to my main camera. Hey, well, I tell you what, I had some fun today. I reminisced on my running trail. As I say, I run every day, and that's a favorite section of mine, along that area where the trees and so forth are. So I always look for the shadows. I look for the sunlight coming through the trees and so forth. And so during the springtime, there's lots of shadows and lots of sunshine coming through those trees when it's nice and light out there. And then summertime, the trees get big and green and so forth. So it's a good place for me to just reminisce, and I enjoyed doing that painting. I want to thank all those of you that are watching and looking in. And if you have any more comments, or give me a like, give me a thumbs up, and let your friends know that I'm on every Thursday live at 2 o'clock. And then share that with your friends, and also subscribe. That way you'll be notified when I announce a new video or a new program. You'll be notified of the program that's coming on. So I want to appreciate you showing up and looking in.
Facebook.
And let me show you the links. I prepared a link over here. Those are all my links. The first is my website, everettswatercolors.com. That's the first link up at the very top. And then it comes my live classroom. There's a link to that right here. You can see the link there, but it's also on my website. You go to my website and you go up to the top left navigation bar at the top left of my website, and you'll see a live classroom. And that's the link to it right there, live classroom. So you can see a rebroadcast of today's program. And then the Fun with Watercolor page, that's on my website also, and there's a link to it, and the link will be in the description of the video today. And then those of you who want to paint, I really recommend and invite those that want to paint along with me is to use the photograph I have available as a download with my Fun with Watercolor page. A link to that will be available on this video after the broadcast, and also to post it on Facebook. And my Everett Watercolor Art Group on Facebook is there for those that want to share and maybe enjoy painting along with me. And I'll be able to look at that and make some comments. So I invite you and ask you to join and have some fun. Okay, I'll see everybody again next week on Thursday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Bye.